like to introduce you now to producer Gary Kurtz. And the star of the film, Mark Hamill, plays Luke Skywalker. You're going to have to click on your...
No, I did that already. His is okay.
Okay.
But his isn't.
No. I think we might as well take some questions now, because that's what we're here for.
I'm
Yes.
sure nobody has any questions.
Princess's costume. Have you ever seen any amazing covers?
This is a G-rated movie.
We've got to remember women's liberation at this time. We can't
Yes,
be...
right.
we aren't sexually selling females or males in this film. Exploitation, sexual exploitation.
After all, she's part of the royal family. Right, well, this is a different part.
She's older now.
Right. She's wised up a bit.
Yes.
I don't want to throw ground glass into this, but are you people actually intending to lay on us a cliched plot again? There's marvelous special effects, but where the hell is the plot in any of these science fiction movies? Oh, this one in particular. Oh, come on.
Space opera. If
This
done well, it'll be good. If it's done poorly, it'll be
depends on what you mean by plot. This is an action-adventure story, and it's set in outer space, just like John Carter to Mars or Flash Gordon or any other action-adventure. It's not a science-oriented story.
have fun with it.
Yes.
How do you handle those light swords for the movie?
Very
How
carefully.
do you use them when you fight with them?
Well, how do you use them?
Well, they're used like samurai swords are. They're large swords. You don't duel with them like Three Musketeers style.
Do they bounce off each other, in other words?
Now, the beam is about 3 or 4 feet long, and it works like a regular sword. They cut through things, and when they hit each other, they spark and arc.
Okay, did you just have a handle and then later on stick in the light, or?
That's part of it, but some of the shots we used front projection material on the sword, which reflects back to the camera.
Yes?
How long is the movie going to be in hours?
About 2 hours, sometime around 2 hours, whatever plays well. Certainly not longer than 2 hours, I hope.
Yes?
Has a decision been made about a composer for the film?
Yes, John Williams is the composer, who did Jaws. The score will be, we hope that the score will be a large orchestra, a romantic score in the Max Steiner, Ernst Korngold, Alfred Newman tradition. There's no electronic music.
I was wondering, what was the idea of laser pistols and flying spaceships and everything else? Why bother with swords at all?
Because laser pistols are too deadly in close quarters. The laser beam, they're not really lasers, but the high energy light beams ricochet off of things and can come back and kill you, so that you just need other weapons also.
Also, in one of the scenes, I find out that Ben Kenobi tells me that it's an old, outdated weapon that was used mainly during my father's time. Darth Vader has one from those times, but they're generally not in use anymore.
Only the few of the people use them. Yes.
How do you handle things like explosions in a vacuum?
It's another galaxy. Anytime I had a question for George about, well, how does that work? He would say, well, this has no relation to time or space as we know it, so shut up and let's shoot it.
His question, you know more about it?
Yeah, I know, but that's not the point.
The question is valid, because you'll turn off a lot of people. Like, you know, an explosion in complete vacuum makes clouds of smoke and loud noises and...
Right. No, the explosions that happen out in deep space have, for what we know, the effect that you would expect. You see the light effect of the explosion, but there's no smoke and there's no sound from the explosion itself. Yes.
R2-D2?
R2-D2.
Obviously, it's very similar to Huey and Louie and Silent Night. Is it live
No, I think that because it's small and because it has the pictures you saw mostly were the two-legged version, or in its two-legged position. It does look a little similar. This one we have 10 or 12 different versions of this that do different things, and there are a couple of them that are operated by humans because they're just things that we couldn't have done mechanically. But most of them are radio controlled.
Yes.
Keeping your anonymity from the studios. Who is funding you?
This picture is being financed and distributed by 20th Century Fox. But it was a bit of a trick to get them to become interested in this type of film at all.
Universal turned it down, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes?
What do you anticipate in the future of science fiction film?
Well, I hope they'll stay around like they should all the time. There's no reason why we can't have some science fiction every year, just like we have some Western, some police shows, or some anything else. It's just that they're very, very expensive. And since Forbidden Planet, there really hasn't been a really good action-adventure. And costs have escalated so much. In the 3 years we prepared this picture, the budget went up 20% a year just from inflation, just the cost of nails and lumber and plastic and metal and everything else. So it is very expensive for what you get out of it. But once you have it, a sequel to this picture would cost half as much because we still have a whole warehouse full of hardware in London.
There's people over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the fictional device you use for explaining going faster than light?
Wait a minute.
We don't explain it. Oh, okay. He asked what device we use to explain going faster than the speed of light.
We should say one
Actually,
thing.
we don't have that much deep space travel. We just explain that they go into some kind of hyperdrive setup and they're there, and we go on with the story. But that's the only time it happens.
In a film like this, you don't have time for exposition to explain why you're doing certain things or what you're doing, too. Otherwise, you're going to interfere with the story.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you did like King 1999. What did they do? It didn't boom, just went.
I'm thinking too about they asked about the cliched plot and whatnot. One time when we were shooting some of the action sequences trying to get the princess out of the detention cell on the Death Star, one of the British crew members came up to me and he said, "Don't you think it's just a little phony that you have these 40,000 stormtroopers after you and you have not been hit once? I mean, can't you just get a little flack on your arm?" And by that time I knew, and George had really told me, and Gary had really told me, it's just not that kind of movie. It's a fairy tale. It's sweet, and it's a swashbuckler. It's a cliche. Maybe that's the adjective to use, but that sort of sums it up. It's just a romantic, the most romantic scene I have with Carrie. I get a kiss on the cheek, not on the lips, for luck.
Yes.
What do they grow on the farm?
The farm on the desert planet collects moisture because there's no water. Those, in a few of the slides, you saw those tall white towers in the background. They look vaguely like oil derricks. They're moisture evaporators that absorb moisture out of the atmosphere, which then they collect and sell to other people on the planet.
And with all my friends going off to these incredible adventures, I stay home and collect water on a desert planet.
Where were the locations shot film?
The desert material was shot in southern Tunisia in the Sahara Desert.
Matt Marta, Ajim, Tozur.
We used Tunisia because of the architectural style. The village that they go to, the spaceport, is a town called Ajim that's almost made up exclusively of domes. And Luke's homestead is a hole in the ground in a salt flat in a place called Matmarta where the people really live in holes in the ground. Anybody else?
Yes.
Well, a little bit of the history of this part of the empire is that in the old days there was a republic of various systems, and she was part of the royal family of a group of planets. And when the imperial forces took over, there were certain of the outland planets that didn't really want to go along with the imperial system. And she's all that's left of the royal family of that used to rule her system. So she's kind of a symbol of the rebellion that's left, what's left of it. That's all. That's her only royal connection anymore.
Plus, it's more fun to rescue a princess than just a regular person.
Yes.
He's a space pirate. I mean, what does he pirate on?
He's a smuggler. He smuggles spice and chrome and other things that they control taxes on, and that's one of the reasons why he's in trouble with the Jabba the Hutt, and he needs money because he had to dump his last shipment because he was accosted by the Imperial troops who boarded and searched for it.
That would explain the hiding places in this ship.
Yes.
Yes. Plus, I love my line. I pop out and I say, "Gee, it's lucky we had these compartments." And Chewbacca, the big ape man, looks at me just like you are right now.
Yes.
For that big ape man, did you actually, he said he had a very strange language. Did you really make a language for him?
Yes.
Wookieese.
It's a cross between a variety of sounds that our sound effects supervisor has put together. That's all animal sounds that he's built a vocabulary around for the various things that he has to say.
Does he cuss in it?
Pardon?
Does he cuss in it?
Oh yes.
R2 is pretty
R2
feisty.
is the one that has the wildest language.
Please repeat some of the questions.
All right.
What were
The last question was the language of the ape man. Well, how are we fabricating that? He's not an ape anyway. He's more like a dog or a big furry bear with a dog's nose. Very huggable.
A giant capybara.
Right. Yes.
Why would you want to do a science fiction film considering all the problems and the fact that it might not get accepted and all of that?
Well, about three years ago, while we were just, the question was why we wanted to make a science fiction film in the first place. And basically 3 or 4 years ago when we were preparing American Graffiti, we were sitting around looking in the newspaper one night to see what to go see, and there wasn't anything. We said, gee, wouldn't it be great to be able to go see a John Carter or a Flash Gordon kind of movie? That was really the basis for it. Yes.
You mentioned John Carter. Have you ever given any thought to trying to put on one of the episodes of John Carter on Mars?
Well, the problem with any established thing, Flash Gordon, John Carter, Doc Smith, anything, is that everybody has their own idea of what it should be like. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's much more difficult. And also the rights for a lot of that stuff are tied up.
Who's your special effects artist and what has he done?
Well, we have several different aspects of the special effects. The mechanical and production effects, like making the robots work and doing pyrotechnics on the set, were done by an English special effects man named John Steers, who has done a lot of special effects work, most of the James Bond pictures and a lot of others of that type, plus some optical effects also. Our optical effects and miniatures are being done in Los Angeles by a group we put together ourselves of mostly younger guys who had worked with Doug Trumbull and other effects people in the past. Some had worked on 2001, some hadn't. Some had worked in Silent Running and various other aspects. But there aren't very many people left in the Hollywood system who are working in the special effects area, because we went through so many years when there were no effects pictures at all. They've either retired or they're about to retire. Our matte paintings are being done by Peter Ellenshaw, the Walt Disney Studios. And between Ellenshaw and Al Whitlock at Universal, that's about it for good matte painting artists. And Ellenshaw is a younger man. He's taken over from his father, who was the great matte artist at Disney for many, many years. And Al Whitlock is about to retire, and he really doesn't have anybody apprenticing him. I mean, he has a few people, but no one who's really that interested in the field, which is a real shame.
That's what really scared me the day George told me that in 20 years or so they won't be able to make movies. Rather than advancing, people are dying off and not passing on the secrets, and it kind of, well, I was depressed for the rest of the day. Let me put it that way.
All of our people are younger, all of our model makers and things, and they may stay in the field and they may not, because there isn't a whole lot of work. Right now there is, because between Steven Spielberg's picture and our picture and what Irwin Allen is doing and a couple of other people, everybody is working. But next year there may be nothing, and they won't be able to work, so they may get out and become encyclopedia salesmen. That's what happened to all the people, a lot of the people in the earlier times. They just couldn't make it in the business, and they had to do something else. Yes.
What other science fiction movies, other than a sequel to this one, are you and some of the other people planning to do at this time?
I haven't thought much about it yet. I've got two other projects of different kinds to do first, and then we'll see. But I'd like to do another one or more. It just really, cost is the critical factor because it drives you crazy. Especially, it's like, most of you don't like Space 1999 because of their plots and their stories, and the science and a lot of things. But for television, the cost of each show is so cheap, and I mean the cost that they have to make the shows for, I think they probably could do better within the limits that they have, but the pressure on television is very, very tough. It's hard to do anything that's out of the ordinary. It's easy to make Kojak and police type shows because you have no technical problems, but anything that has special technical problems when you're on a 3-week per episode schedule can drive you crazy.
Yes.
In your slides, it showed Luke riding some kind of strange desert beast or something. Is that going to be stop-action animation?
No, it wasn't Luke. It was one of the stormtroopers riding what looks like a dinosaur. No, we don't have stop-action. He's never seen as prominently as you see him in the slides. He's off in the background at the top of the hill, and then we have another one and several other strange beasts parked at the cantina where they go into to find the man to charter the ship. They're just tethered outside, but that's as far as we get with the animals. We just sort of pass over them. They move their heads and wag their tails and things, but we don't see them walk around.
Are they miniatures?
No, they're full size.
They're a full-size mock-up.
Mm-hmm.
I climbed inside one time, and they were covered with. I was reading an article about David Bowie inside one of those big lizards because he had the insides was all newspaper. I climbed up in his belly.
Yeah, yes.
Say again, please.
How well developed is the sorcery angle?
It's not explained very well. It's just touched on that Alec Guinness is a former Jedi Knight and is a sorcerer. He does a few little things throughout the picture that give you the feeling that he has special powers that no one else has.
Yes.
Who are the Jedi?
Go ahead. I'll get you next.
They were an old order of warriors, much in the samurai tradition, who were the main peacekeepers in the Republic before the Empire took over. Most of them had been killed off, and Alec Guinness is supposedly one of the last ones that are around at all in the solar system.
Yes.
One of the things that fascinated me in the summary on 2001 was the theory or the idea that Kubrick had changed his movie in order to appeal to diverse audience groups. How important is that in a screenplay, something like the Star Wars, and do you have rewrites in the middle as a result of trying to appeal to diverse audience groups?
Well, it does happen sometimes. And his question is, do you change the concept of the picture while you're writing sometimes to appeal to diverse groups in the audience? It's very difficult to tell what those groups are out there, and you're better off in a lot of cases making the movie for yourself. And if some people like it and some don't, that's the way it goes. But to try to sit down and figure out what the various groups are going to like is impossible. Now, you can make certain adjustments. There are certain things. We went through 8 or 9 different screenplays, mostly for cost reasons and also condensing the story into a cohesible unit. Some of the things that were in the original screenplays were almost impossible to do, like having 300 Wookiees on the Wookiee planet. Just physically, we couldn't find the people or had the makeup people to handle that. So in our case, we went through that. But basically, we're making the films for ourselves. It was what we would like to see, and it has to be that way because you have no other basis for your criteria. You can do all the research you want, but it really wouldn't be worth much when the film comes out. Yes? Well, part of that, whether we'll make a series or not, depends on how successful the film is and whether the distributor is interested in going further with it. There's a sequel novel being written, and maybe more novels based on the characters and the ideas, but whether or not we make any more films is up in the air right now.
What?
George Lucas wrote the screenplay. It's his original story.
Are you
Yes.
going to be playing this straight or for camp and cute?
No, it's a straight adventure. There are humorous overtones in certain of the scenes, but otherwise it's a straight action adventure.
It's not camp. It's not tongue-in-cheek. But funny things do happen. Robots have most of the funny lines.
Yes.
How much money do you have to make before you break even?
Well, the picture will cost a little over $7 million, direct cost. So we would have to gross back to the distributor in rentals, not box office, but rentals to the distributor, probably around 18 or 19 million to break even. That's one of the reasons why more science fiction pictures aren't made.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody go see it twice.
In your action sequences, was there ever any risk involved, and did you use doubles?
There are a couple of times when we had to use stuntmen, but not for Mark. When he swings across the canyon, why he actually swings across. Of course, the whole floor is littered with 6 layers of cardboard boxes, so it wouldn't have mattered if you fell.
I
or
was
not.
thinking more of when the Tuscan Raider gave me that rousting.
Oh, yes.
My back looked like hamburger meat the next 3 days.
Of course, the Tuscan Raider who was beating on you was the chief stuntman anyway.
I know, but through those eye holes he couldn't see, kept stepping on me.
Anything else?
Yes, way in back.
Right. No, what happens is that that's part of that's what you have to go see. There's that battle. We left that open-ended on purpose. Yes.
Is that it?
All right.
Yes.
Is the filming complete, and if it has it been viewed by any general test audience?
No, the production photography, the principal photography in London and Tunisia is finished and is being edited right now. We're doing opticals, miniatures, and special effects, which will take at least another 6 months. So the whole film won't even be together until March.
I'm going to take 2 more questions, then we're going to finish because they want us out of here. And before I take the 2 questions, I'll just say this. We are in room 364 with some paintings and props and things like that. We'll be there till 9 tonight. And then I'll be at the same room from noon till 6 tomorrow and from noon to 4 on Monday. But Gary and Mark will only be here today. I also might mention at around 11, or I suppose later because it's running late, tonight, you can see George Lucas's first science fiction film, which is now called Electronic Labyrinth, which was then called Thex 1138 EB, which was an award-winning short film he made while at USC in the 60s. And tomorrow night, they will be showing the feature, Thex 1138. Which he did, and it came out around 1970. 71. And I think few of you have probably, maybe some of you have seen it, but it's been very difficult to see in the last few years. Warner's has made it very hard.
Well, they didn't like the film when it first came out, and it also got trapped in a feud that between Warner Brothers and Francis Coppola's organization when they backed out of financing his group of pictures, and it was the only picture produced under that program, and it was finished just about the time they had a falling out. So they also didn't understand the picture and just didn't really know what to do with it. It did very well on its initial release. We got pulled right away, and there are no 35 prints left that we know about. It's in 16, and you can still see it in 16, but there are only few. We have 2 or 3 prints of our own. But and there are some scattered around, but you can't get them from Warner Brothers anymore.
Yes.
Yes, to both. It's the first major role for Mark and the first major role for Carrie Fisher. She's only been in one other film. Shampoo. It's on for about 3-4 minutes.
And the first major role for Harrison, who plays Hanson.
Yes, it's also Harrison Ford's first major role.
Last
Well,
question.
I've done lots and lots of television and lead roles on television, but this is the first feature I've done.
Last question.
Buster Crabbe one time, when he was on the Tomorrow Show, was complaining that when he was back there doing Tarzan and all those things, that he really became stereotyped for those types of roles. What if your thing really goes over great and you become a science fiction or fantasy?
Kerwin.
I love science fiction. And I'm not saying that just to be popular. This is my 4th convention. It's the first one I've been invited to, and all the others I paid for and got there myself. And I like to work, and I love Star Wars.
All right, thank you very much for turning out, and we hope you'll come and see the film.
We have some sheets up here if anybody's interested in the film, too. Information sheets.